Scrum. Scrum is a lightweight agile framework that is commonly used by software development teams. Scrum, the name comes from Scrum in rugby, where everyone is in headlock, all of the team with one purpose, one objective in a scrum trying to get that ball. So what we want to do is that everyone within our agile scrum team is to try to complete our sprint goals and deliver that project on time, on budget, and with the quality we promised our customer. Scrum Framework has few ceremonies. The first ceremony in Scrum Framework is sprint planning. Sprint planning is a ceremony where you take the items from the top of your product backlog and you break it down and plan for the next 2 weeks. Sprint lengths generally are between 1 and 4 weeks. Most teams plan for 2 weeks. Most teams have 2-week sprints, so in sprint planning, you are just planning for 2 weeks. What can you deliver in 2 weeks? And the idea in this is that you want to deliver a working software within 2 weeks. Take the item, 1 feature, 2 feature, how many ever features it is, but at the end of sprint, after 2 weeks, you want that software, that application, that feature to be fully working, something that you can deliver to your end customer. One point here, that sprint generally we would start midweek and finish on midweek. So generally most of the teams would have their sprint planning either on Wednesday or Thursday. The reason for this is that if you start your sprint on Monday, in the UK most of the bank holidays are generally on Monday. The other reason is that Monday and Friday are the 2 common days where people take off. You can take Friday off and the weekend you got 3 days off. And if you take Monday off, then you got 4 days. So most people, the most common days to be taking off is Friday and Monday. So if your sprint planning is on Monday, then there's a high chance that people will be taking that day off, and you want everyone to be involved in your sprint planning, everyone in this team. So it's not a good idea to start your sprint on Monday. So most teams would either start on Wednesday or Thursday. It means your sprint will either finish on Tuesday or Wednesday. So when at the end of each sprint you have sprint review, and sprint review you want it to be on Tuesday or Wednesday so that all of your stakeholders are present there as well. One other thing about sprint planning is that generally sprint planning take 1 to 2 hours for a 2-week sprint. I once went to work for an organization that was doing 3-week sprints, but it would take them 2 days to do the sprint planning. And the reason was that when they came into the sprint planning session, their backlog was not refined. So if you want your sprint plannings to be really effective, efficient, then what you want to do is refine your backlog and have 3 Amigo sessions as well. Backlog refinement is not an official Scrum ceremony, but 90% of the teams that use Scrum and even Kanban, they refine the backlog. So if you really want your sprint planning to be efficient, effective, and not drag on for hours and hours, make sure you do backlog refinement regularly. Now that we have our sprint backlog, we start our sprint. The first ceremony we do is daily Scrum. Daily Scrum is done every day, depending on the time zone you are in and how distributed your team is. Most teams would do daily Scrum in the morning, soon as they come into office or soon as when everyone starts work. But you set a time, and it happens regularly at that time in that virtual meeting or that physical room. Most teams, they ask the 3 questions in daily Scrum: what I worked on yesterday, what I plan to work today, and if there are any impediments. Tip: another more effective way of doing daily Scrum I've found is to use the Kanban style walk the board. You start from the right hand side of your Scrum board and you walk towards left, and the objective of this is that you go through the stories And the stories that are closer to being completed, you want to focus on them first and deliver them before picking up something new. So I find that walking the board is more effective, more efficient and better way of doing daily Scrum than asking the theory questions. And finally, to get together for 1 hour, look at in this sprint what went, look at this sprint, what worked really well, what didn't work so well, and what improvements can we bring to it. Always use a different format for your retrospective because you're doing it every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, and you don't want it to be a boring process that you have to do. So if you use different templates for your retrospective, that is going to keep everyone in the team engaged. Other thing is that whatever action you decide to do in your retrospective, bring that onto your next sprint board. Make sure those actions are done. If you're doing retrospective every 2 weeks at the end of each sprint, but the actions from those retrospectives are not being implemented, then the team will find that retrospective doesn't bring any benefit to them and they will stop doing it. So what I find is that in each of my retrospective, I would only bring maximum of 3 action points that we will implement, and we will add those to our next sprint planning. So in next sprint, we can allocate time for everyone or whoever it is been assigned to that to work on those improvements from the retrospectives. Sprint review is where we sit with our stakeholders and we show them what we have delivered, what we have developed in the sprint. It is a chance for our stakeholders to review, inspect our product and give us suggestions for improvement. We also